Boo, 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 boo. Here we are with Adam. We're going to be talking about bgipfs.com. How you feeling, Adam?
Yeah, feeling pretty good. Pretty good,
All
thanks.
right.
It's
All
been a
right.
week.
So, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say it's Friday. It's Friday.
It's Friday. It's Friday, baby. Let's go. Okay. So, I am going to, let's set the stage here. So, we have this app called niftyinc.com or nifty.inc, nifty.inc. And what you can do is you can create something. All right. You could draw just like a happy little smiley guy. I think this is one of your favorites. And you could say smile and make it a limit of 2, and you can ink, and that thing is going to go on chain and go to IPFS. And we did it before where it did like some gasless stuff, but now I think this is actually going to be gas full. But anyways, it uses IPFS heavily, right? By the way, this is built by Scaffold-ETH, by the Build Guild. Let's talk about Scaffold-ETH. So Scaffold-ETH lets you deploy your apps, but when you deploy your app, you're usually using Vercel, and you're doing a Vercel login and a Vercel prod. But what we'd like for you to be able to do is a Yarn IPFS and ship your app out to IPFS. And so all of these things we need, that's where bgipfs.com comes in. Why don't you give us an intro to this, Adam? What are we looking at? What is bgipfs.com?
Yeah, so I think you talked to the the sort of two motivating things. We need to pin stuff for ourselves. We also want to let folks deploy their sites to IPFS. And if you see like Vitalik's site, which is on like ETHLimo, those all need to be pinned to IPFS. Being able to pin a site to IPFS. There's some interesting stuff which we won't get into today on like how you make a website work when it's deployed on IPFS. But like I think we realized we didn't have the infrastructure that we wanted for Nifty Inc. because we're using a really old pinner, and also that we had this other stuff we wanted to be using IPFS for. So kind of went on this sort of little IPFS side quest. I've also like used IPFS a lot, like working on like subgraphs. Subgraphs get pinned to IPFS. It's been something that's always been there where I feel like there could be better tools. And so this was kind of like a side quest to think about IPFS tools in general. So like I guess the upshot of that little side quest is a few things. The first one is like IPFS uploader. So this is like an npm package. If you pick like, if you click view docs, it's on npm. This one's pretty simple. It's just like quite a thin wrapper, which lets you essentially specify one or several like IPFS destinations that you want to pin your file to. So that lets you pin to like a Kubo node. So that's a sort of regular just IPFS node, but it also lets you pass in a Pinata configuration, and it also lets you pass in like an S3 compatible setup, which is what's used by like Firebase and Foreverland. And so this is this idea that like currently you need a different way to pin to IPFS regular nodes and Pinata, and it's kind of like, can we just make it easier to like switch in between these? And then also it just does a tiny bit of wrangling, because currently you need to do stuff like turning your files into buffered like bytes, this kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, all the data chunks. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't want to F around with chunks.
yeah, you sort of need to think about chunks, and so the idea here is that you don't need to think about chunks. If you want to add a JSON, you just say add.json, or you like add.file, or you add like yeah, I think even URL. So you can put in a URL and that will go grab that URL and upload it to IPFS. So that's just like a little convenience wrapper, which seemed like a cool thing to have that we can use for Nifty Inc.
And Scaffold-ETH installs this now. IPFS uploader is now a dependency of Scaffold-ETH, and Scaffold-ETH just calls upload when it needs to upload your site, and it doesn't have to mess around with chunks or anything. It just uses your library to make sure that whole website gets shipped to IPFS. Am I saying that right?
Yes. That's wrapped up in the sort of the next thing. So BGIPFS. So BGIPFS uses the IPFS uploader. It's a CLI tool. So you can install it with npm. You can also just install it in this one line command, which we'll run through in a second, because this was like, how can you actually just run IPFS clusters, which is always a bit intimidating, I guess, for me before. So this is a bit of a like OPSI part of the side quest, but it also lets you call commands to like upload files, also upload directories. So I guess that's the nuanced thing. When you're uploading a website, you're actually uploading a directory of files, right? It's not just the one HTML file in like, at least if you want to upload the next apps that people are building with Scaffold-ETH today.
So let me make sure I understand the different isolation. So there's this website. First of all, this website is part of the package, and then there is something that allows you to upload things, and then there's something that allows you to spin up clusters. Which things are which here in that case, or am I even thinking of it right?
Yeah. So so those are the things. BGIPFS is is a CLI tool which lets you spin up clusters. It also imports the IPFS uploader and exposes that as a CLI command. And then so essentially IPFS uploader stands alone. BGIPFS depends on IPFS uploader, but also has some other functionality on running IPFS clusters. And then the website was kind of just the bringing together of these things of saying, we've got this stuff which lets us upload to IPFS. We've got this stuff which lets us run clusters. We need to run some clusters for our own purposes. Let's have a website and make it a UI as well as all this CLI stuff.
Okay, cool. And that'll just upload directly. All right, awesome. Okay, I think I understand it. You want to take over and let's fire some commands into the terminal and try this out. You want to do a live demo for the demo gods?
Yeah, let's
go for it.
Let's take our chances.
Let's try it.
So I guess let's see. So so this is a fresh Ubuntu box on AWS. So just to the idea being how in how few commands can we have an IPFS cluster up and running. So first thing I guess we're going to do is we're going to drop in.
Do we have npm and pmpn and all of the? Oh, you're just going to paste it in. What's going to happen? I'm so excited. Let's go. Yes.
So we'll see. So this is installing
NVM
and then Node, and now it's installing
using that to get a specific version. Yeah.
So it'll think about this for a little while.
Sure.
The idea we kind of had here. So I think I've said clusters a couple of times. So there's IPFS cluster.io. This is this idea that an IPFS node sort of stands on its own, but IPFS clusters sort of coordinate between several IPFS nodes and make sure that they're all pinning the same stuff. So a bunch of the projects out there that provide IPFS as a service will actually be running clusters under the hood or some variant of that. But
this thing here, right? IPFS cluster.io. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yes,
and that means that one box receives stuff and then another box also receives it. And if half of the world falls apart, your stuff is still on one of the two boxes, something like that. It's about redundancy, I'm guessing, and distributing load balancing even maybe. But all the clustering stuff is magic behind the scenes and they handle it for you.
Yeah, it kind of takes care of it. So let's see. So hopefully we've got it installed. Yeah, it's installed. So this is the CLI, and so there are these few things you can do with the CLI. There's the cluster stuff, there's syncing stuff. So that's actually for syncing between IPFS nodes, which we've not talked about. And then there's the upload stuff. So so again, if I go to BGIPFS upload, now let's just see if you can see the different commands that are available, which actually really just one. It's you upload a path. So if I had any files in this on this, it's a fresh Ubuntu box, so I don't. Then I could upload a path, and it would detect whether it was a file or a directory, and it would upload.
And recursively dig through it as needed. Dope. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and there's some small stuff around the config. You can pass in different types of configuration files, but that's the uploading stuff.
So this is what Scaffold-ETH is going to do. Basically, Scaffold-ETH brings in all of this stuff, and when you do a yarn IPFS, it takes your built website and does this BG IPFS upload on the directory and ships the whole thing to wherever you want.
Yeah, exactly that.
Cool.
Exactly that. And so then the other bunch of commands are the cluster commands. So let's see. So the stuff here is we've got a few things. First, we've got to install some stuff, mainly Docker. So we're using Docker for all this stuff. So I'm going to just get that running now. It's going to ask me if I want to install Docker because I don't necessarily want to. This is installing, so this will take a little while. And yeah, and so again, the idea is how few commands can we do this in? So I think we're up to maybe 2 or 3 now. There's one sort of, and so then I'll talk through the remaining things. One is to config, so setting up some of the necessary configuration for the cluster. That'll become sort of obvious, and we can talk through what the things are happening there. I'll show a bunch of secrets on the screen. This is a throwaway box. I first say that this is not necessarily something that you should screen
Stay
record.
tuned for secrets.
The secrets, yeah. And then hopefully it's a matter of just sort of starting, stopping, restarting your cluster, and that'll spin up the things you need.
So if I wanted to spin up another box that was part of this cluster, there's this cluster secret that's happening here. Is that right? It's like kind of an identifier.
Yeah, so if we go here, we can say, okay, config.
Don't look, don't look.
Okay, so this is one thing where there wasn't actually a
your user doesn't have access to run Docker, or the Docker user needs to have access to the box is what's happening there.
Yeah,
nice.
So that's just one where that's a helpful command that tells you need to do what I just did, just to quit and restart again. So here we are. So we're starting up. So firstly, it's pulling down a couple of the Docker Compose files that's going to use to actually run the containers. Then we're going to give it a name. We'll call it demo video. That's the name. Cluster secret. So this is again the secret that you'd need.
If you had another cluster live already, you'd bring in a secret. But in this case, we don't have one, so we're going to generate one. But then the second and third and fourth box all around the world that you set up, you just put that secret in here, and then they're all kind of on the same level, sharing things between each other.
Exactly that. So we'll see. And it's generated the secret. You see it here. So peer addresses similarly. So this is if you're joining a cluster, you need to know which boxes you need to go and see to get the pins, the things that have already been pinned. So again, we're the first one in this cluster. There's some username and password stuff, which is more just for accessing. And so this is all stored in a .env file at the end of this. And then so now it's doing some initialization. Again, it's just like creating some config files. What's happening behind the scenes is spinning up and then shutting down some Docker containers.
Orchestration. Let's go.
Yeah, so now you can kind of see what's happening, which is that it's setting up the configuration files. There's maybe more logging here than you'd strictly need. But then it should hopefully just be a matter of start.
Please work first try. Maybe services.
I don't know.
Container started.
I think there's maybe even, yeah, there we go. So it's checking. So if we look at what's happening, so we're using Trafic. This is like just a reverse proxy that sits in front of everything. We're running IPFS and that's ready. And then the IPFS cluster is ready. So they run as these kind of two different things. And you've got these two things running on this end, like local endpoints. So I guess then this is like another detailed thing, and this is all like in the documentation of this is currently running in like IP mode. So that's like the setup if you just have an IP, whereas there's also like a, let's see, start.
Oh, instead of accessing the box or cluster by IP, you could reference it by something else.
Yeah, so you can, if you pass in mode DNS, then you just need to set a couple of variables, which is basically like, okay, what is the domain that you're using? So it can.
Oh, okay. IP versus domain. Okay, got it. It's still going to be a URL, but like, is it a raw IP or do you want to have a DNS in front of it?
Yeah, and so I guess so then if we, maybe if we try and put it all together, if I go and like touch hello text nano, I say hey, and I just save this.
Can he exit? Okay, he did.
So now if I again go back to the we'll see if this works, but like
BG IPFS upload
hello.text,
and it knows to go to the cluster.
So this is then where we say, okay, what is the config file?
We haven't set the destination of where the uploads go. Is that right? And that just did it? Okay.
So this is if we go to the IPFS upload config. I think this should then work. This is like just the standard like default endpoint.
Like, yeah, hey, look at localhost on 5001 when you try to upload.
So now, that file's uploaded to that local node, and could access it via gateway.
And
maybe
pinned? Uploaded and pinned?
Okay. Uploaded and pinned. Yeah, maybe that's so like it's essentially hitting the add endpoint. So it's added and saved.
Okay. Heck yeah. Okay. So let's go back to this. You have an app that you need IPFS in, or you need to even spin up your own cluster to push that IPFS information, or you just want like a nice web demo for how to drag and drop something, you can go to bgipfs.com and you can get that stuff. You mentioned a sync real quick. What was the BG? So I think that was because we could have an existing IPFS server somewhere that doesn't play in this game, and we want to grab all the things from it and get it into our cluster. Is that right?
Yeah. So this is the Nifty Inc. thing where we've got this old pinner that we've had for a while, and it's just running one IPFS node. So if you remember I had those two things, the IPFS node and the cluster. This just running an IPFS node, and so the sync thing is basically it's got all these pins, and we want to move them to this new cluster setup. And so sync basically goes that, like, you provide it two nodes, like an origin and destination, and you say, okay, the origin. You go to the origin, you say, what are all the pins you have? You go, and then essentially you take those pins. The slight nuance there is like you do it in a streaming way. So IPFS is quite well set up for all this, for essentially streaming. And so it's one of those things where if you remember that, you can make stuff not fall over and time out and all this kind of stuff. But it's easier to, like, it was interesting. Yeah, well, some of the stuff with the reverse proxy was where, like, difficulty with reverse proxy was where it was improperly or trying to be clever and doing some buffering, whereas actually like IPFS just really likes streaming, and they can then be quite efficient.
So bgipfs.com is good if you're looking to start storing your things on IPFS, if you're looking to spin up a cluster, or even if you're looking to migrate your old system. Maybe you had something living in IPFS and you're like, it's time to be clustered, it's time to do this right. Maybe you just have an app and you're shipping a centralized front end and you're like, hey, let's decentralize this front end. You can use this BG uploader and just, npm install your package and then do BG upload, not just from the command line, but like from your app. You can do an upload right from the JavaScript.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So if you went to the upload page, which I think
let's do it. Yeah.
So you clicked try a demo. Yeah. This is
drag something in here. Hit upload. Where's it going to go now? Is it going to go to that cluster we just deployed?
No, so this is going to
a build guild.
A build guild sort of community cluster. So yeah, again, to your thing, like there are obviously some great IPFS. There's some great IPFS services that exist. This is was built mainly because we've got these couple of itches that we need to scratch for ourselves. I think it's going to be hopefully a good testing ground. It's pretty easy to get up and get started. Yeah, I think the uploader is hopefully a useful tool. I certainly found it nice to be able to, so.
Do you need an API key to upload to Build Guild, or is that a placeholder? Are we actually validating that?
Yes. So I guess that's another thing. If you sign in,
which means I need to sign in. Let's go. All right. And notice I'm not signing in with an email. I mean, you can, if you don't have a wallet, you can sign in with an email if you're a normie. But if you've got a wallet already, look at this. I'm signing in with my MetaMask. You probably can't see it, can you? MetaMask came up. I'm hitting confirm. Here it goes. All right. Now I'm successfully logged in as me, right? Is that all the way out here too? Cool.
Yeah. So now if you went to keys.
Oh, I'm going to expose some keys. Dang it. I'm going to need to delete that probably. Huh?
You can delete that guy later, but
okay. Let's make a new one. Create. Ooh, fantastic. So you have a whole API key system built into Build Guild IPFS. Man, you're like a 10x engineer that is like 10x again because of Cursor and AI, right? Like you built this stuff in a few days, I think.
Yes. Also, then if you go to the upload page, let's see if this works.
Okay.
And if you just upload that, upload just that again. Click upload.
Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Okay. And hit upload.
So now if you go to pins, hopefully you'll see that there.
Okay. Ooh, very nice.
There we go.
Now, if I could just buy some tokens that incentivized a bunch of people to keep this pinned, wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah. So, which I guess is leading on to this is a starting point. It was a cool build. I think it's something that's going to be pretty useful for us at Nifty Inc. and hopefully the Build Guild. But also putting out there, there's the repos at Build Guild.
The repo's right down at the bottom here, right? GitHub.
Yeah. So and that's a sort of, if you look inside the packages there, you can see the different different parts of it. So it's the uploader, the website, the BG IPFS, and then the only one is the proxy. So that's a slightly different one, which is that's a Cloudflare worker, which is basically the thing which the first thing we thought about, I thought about using, was just like Vercel functions, but you can only upload like 4 megabytes up to a Vercel function. Cloudflare has much higher limits, and so this thing is, and also is just pretty much streaming directly through to the IPFS nodes, and it also does the like checking you have an API key, have you like not used above your limit on the API key, so that kind of fun stuff. But yeah, like a lot of it's just a proof of concept, but it's also usable.
Amazing. So you can get this code at the Build Guild repo, but the best place to just go find this is to go to bgipfs.com, and then you get all of this. And if you want the code, it's down here at the bottom. If you want some help, it's here. And you can even sign in and get your keys set up to use the BGIPFS cluster as your cluster for your thing. A lot going on here. This is great. Anything else you can think of to add to that, or does that basically cover it?
Well, I guess we should delete all those secrets and
yeah, we're gonna need to delete some secrets. Yep.
Maybe we could do a bit of obscuring of some of that kind of stuff. But yeah,
great. So we covered it. We did it.
We did it.
Okay, if you out there want to get your stuff in IPFS, it's way more decentralized. It's way more distributed. If you have a centralized front end, if you're, uploading everything to Vercel, maybe think about having an IPFS option so your front end can go live in IPFS. And if your app is doing uploads, maybe it needs to go to IPFS. And maybe if you're already using IPFS and you have a single pinner that is like a single source of failure, and you keep forgetting to update the SSL, and your pinner keeps going down, so Nifty Inc. keeps breaking, maybe you should move to a cluster system that does this stuff automatically. All right. Thank you, Adam. Thank you so much. Go to bgipfs.com. Go get it.